Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the American Predictor Show. Today we have with us Bob Griswold. Bob is one of our uh, oldest sponsors that we have on the channel. I would like to say before we get into this conversation, if you need any type of tactical equipment, if you need the survival food, the survival advice, if you need night vision, ballistic helmets, Bob Griswold's a man to see. Especially since the fact that Bob will take his time to explain to you how to survive where other people will charge you exuberant amounts of money. And the thing that is so great about Bob is his mission is to take care of people and to make sure that we all survive this coming calamity, which is what we're about to talk about. Bob, we are not short of articles to read over. We're not short of news to talk about. And one of the things that I find very interesting that recently happened in New York is this PSA announcement over a nuclear attack. What to do during a nuclear attack. Now, you and I were on the phone earlier this morning. I just said, hey, man, this is too rich of intel. We got to just do a show over it. So do you want to address this for the audience?
Yeah, I want to first mention, you mentioned night vision. See this unit right here? We have them in stock, okay? If you go to most websites, you're going to wait 12, 14, 16 weeks for this. I have these in stock. The same thing with this. I have the thermal. I have quite a few units in stock. And, these two pieces of equipment absolutely make you king of your neighborhood. Not that you're going to exploit it.
Battlefield game changer.
Absolutely. I mean, these things, there's a cap on this end. Actually, we've had people call us up. These are day training caps. See that little hole in it? Mm-hmm. I don't know if you can see it. They leave the caps on. These are for day training. They leave the caps on. And I tell people, if you go out at night with that cap on, it's not going to work. And some people don't know that. So I just take the cap off, and it works great. But yeah, I don't know if you can, let me see something. I'm just experimenting. Let's see if you can see it's through that's not focused, but I can focus it. But basically, that's what you're going to see at night. You're going to see hundreds of yards at night away in a completely dark night. I mean, 200-300 yards away. Yeah, white phosphor night vision. Yeah, it's mind-boggling how good it is and what you can see. I could make you out. I can actually tell who you are, maybe at 100 yards, and actually make you out walking at 300-400 yards. So it's an incredible piece of equipment. But we do have it in stock. It's ready to go. If people call us, we try to do 24-hour shipping, at the most 48-hour shipping. And a lot of people don't have it in stock right now. I mean, it's just, I know big companies, if you call, you're going to wait 12, 14, 16 weeks to get your night vision. Now you can call us.
Can you let people know that there are actually other attachments that you're going to need for that night vision or that thermal optic? Because you need to have the optic mounting device and the rhino mounting arm with it. Do you have any of those right there?
We have helmets. We have the mounting devices, all of it. Did my camera just go out of focus?
Yeah, it did.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. It just went out of focus. I don't know why. But anyhow, yeah, we have there are accessories. You don't have to have it. It comes with a head mount you can wear. But also, if you want an infrared aiming laser, this is a laser you can put on your weapon. People want to mount something like this to their weapon. I tell them not to do it, because if this is on my weapon, I have to hold my weapon in combat ready position, which is heavy, and you can eventually get fatigued and let it down, and you're not going to be any good. Second of all, if I've got this on my weapon and I want to look at Doug Thornton, I have to point my weapon at him. So I tell people, don't do that. Don't point your weapon at somebody, especially at night. And then, the third thing is, if you're walking through the woods and your weapon's up, you're going to be hitting vines and snagging it on everything. It's just going to become a mess. So you mount it.
There's also a battery life problem with that too. Those batteries go very fast.
Well, the battery in this will last about 20 hours. Mm-hmm. The battery in a single one, if you just find a PVS 14, is about 40 hours. If you have running a laser, the laser has a pressure switch. You can turn it on and off very quickly. And that'll last about 20 hours on. And so you do get fairly good coverage with it. But the nice thing is, if you sight that infrared aiming laser, and when I say infrared aiming laser at something, it means a laser you can't see with the unaided eye. So the average Joe's not going to see it. Just if you have night vision on, you're going to see a crystal clear laser beam. If you sight that in and point it at something, it's easier to make, I would say, most people a 200-yard shot at night during complete darkness than most people can make with a scope rifle during the day. Because if that laser is sighted incorrectly and you put the laser on the target, that bolt's going to hit the target. So with that said, I mean, that's why it's a very popular, and that's why I strongly recommend it, because it is such a force multiplier that you cannot compare anything else the average person can buy with the advantage that night vision or thermal gives you. And we're coming up on a time when our society is breaking down at light speed. I mean, there's several psychological conditions that they're doing to us right now. One is repeated trauma. Any police officer, combat veteran, people know what repeated trauma does to people. Trauma, relax, trauma, relax, trauma, relax. Well, that's what they're doing to the American people right now. COVID was a trauma event. Monkeypox is a trauma event. The war in Ukraine is a trauma event. The shortages are a trauma event. Inflation's a trauma event. So what a trauma events eventually do is basically break the person down to where, that's why police have such high suicide rates. That's why suicide rate in the military is so high, is that's what's been done to these people. Well, they're doing it to the entire nation right now with trauma event after trauma event after trauma event. And at the same time, if you take a person that is a captor, they know that if they do this to captives very long, there's actually something called the Helsinki syndrome, which probably all know what it is. It's actually, you end up with a affinity towards your captors. You start to like them. Because they've psychologically isolated you from everybody, the mask, all that stuff psychologically isolates you to where the only person you have left is your tormentor, and you actually form a bond with your tormentor. And that's what they've done. That's why we still see people that are wearing masks and believing all this stuff, because they psychologically bonded with their tormentor. And it's sad, but they know what they're doing. And that's why we see event after event after event. And with no hope, they wanted to close the churches down. Why? Because churches offer hope. They didn't want you associating with your friends. Why? Because friends, the good network. I mean, we said, this is one of the things about this thing we have coming up. We're going to be doing the active shooter. It's going to be a bunch of guys in the evening sit around talking around the campfire, talking and just encouraging one another, and that builds camaraderie and strength. Well, they don't want that. That's why they don't want men. So that we have to understand the psychological operation that is being perpetrated on the American people right now. They plan the collapse. They plan the psychological traumatizing of you. They plan more infectious diseases. Joe Biden said it. We need more money for the next, remember you said that, for the next pandemic coming out. Well, they already have it planned. They have the psychological conditioning of food shortages coming our way. Where, right now, I was just reading story after story. I don't know if you've seen this, Doug, that food banks have run out of food. They don't have any food to give people. They're out. So, I can't feed my baby, no baby formula. That's psychologically traumatizing. Parents having to take their kids to the emergency room. It's being done over and over and over again. And yet the story, I don't know if you can read it. New York City prepares people for the big one with a nuclear attack PSA, public service announcement video. And when reading this, the one thing I noticed is they tell you, what's going to happen, but they don't give you any clear-cut instructions how to be self-reliant. Nothing in there about buying a radiation meter. You obviously go inside, shut the doors, get your basement, and stay tuned for the latest information. Basically, trust us. We'll give you what you need. How are they going to pass out potassium iodate to people if there is or one? The infrastructure would be non-existent. They'd be in bunkers somewhere. The main city would be in bunkers. The people who really matter, they'd be in bunkers that you paid for. They'd be using radiation meters that you paid for. Not that you would want a radiation meter. Go ahead.
Let me ask you a question, because if you're hunkered down in your basement and the government says just sit and wait for instructions, well, if a nuke attack just happened within the realms of your facility that you're at, your living conditions, then it also just hit your water supply. So if you have your fresh water tap running to your bunker that is now irradiated, where are you going to get the water from? Did you have it stationed already inside there? And what could someone do if that water supply is tainted? And I want to add this other one to you. Besides just taking contractor sheeting and duct tape and blocking off all the windows, blocking off all the doors, any air vent passages, our homes are meant for air conditioning. So that ventilation circulation inside that house is going to get stale real fast. What are some good recommendations for people?
Well, first of all, you mentioned a very important point. Stale air brings black mold.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have to stay in some place very often, it's going to start developing black mold. Just the moisture you expire, it's going to start attaching to things, and things are going to get moist. I don't know if you've ever been in a bunker before. I have. Unless they're running massive ventilation systems, you have a real condensation problem. Mm-hmm. Sleeping bag is a perfect thing. You can have the best sleeping bag in the world. If you sleep in it 3 or 4 nights, you've sweat. That sleeping bag loses a lot of its thermal properties. And with that moisture and stuff in there, you can have all kinds of nasties growing. That's why you have to clean it, make sure it stays dry and all those other things. But, ammonium chloride is just being able to keep bacteria and stuff down from growing, because it's going to be a mass casualty event. You can have black mold growing. You need to be able to kill it. I've told people before, we sell ammonium chloride. You can get it on Amazon, to keep your bunker area clean, but it's going to get hot and nasty really quick. And you are going to tape up your windows, even your plug sockets that are on the outside wall. If somebody's not done a really good job, hold it. When you have a windstorm next time, hold a piece of tissue in front of a plug socket that's on an outside wall and see if it's moving. My guess is it will move somewhat. That means you have air coming in through those plug sockets that are on the outside wall. And so that's some of the things you're going to do. Right here, we sell these little radiation meters. I mean, they're sub $200, and it's very, very accurate. This thing's small enough you can put it in your pocket. It has you can actually open the back up, as you can see. It has a rechargeable battery. You can change out the battery. You can also charge it through USB. So, I mean, why trust the government for the latest information? They never lie to us, do they? They never tell us the truth. I mean, they never tell us anything but the truth. And so if I have this, I can actually know what's going on. I don't have to listen to them to give me some kind of false information. They want to depopulate to begin with. And so what are they going to tell me? The radiation's safe. Yeah, go outside. I don't trust them. I want to have something I can measure the radiation with. If you can find it, I would have people getting potassium iodate right now, because we are pushing the Russians to the point of breaking. I don't know the Russian psyche. I don't know when their final straw is, but I think we plan on not just beating them in war. I think we plan on obliterating them as a world power, as a world leader, as any kind of world presence. We plan on just getting rid of them, and they're not gonna do that. If you know the history of World War II, they lost more people than anybody else. They 20 million people. They fought the Nazis tooth and nail. The whole country was committed to defeating the Nazis, and we don't understand that today. And then plus we're being lied about. I mean, Saint Zelensky. He can do no wrong, but I think he's losing the war. I think we're being lied to. I mean, what nation on the earth did the Japanese lie to their people about winning the war? Yes. The Japanese lied about Midway. The Russians lied to their people about Afghanistan. We lied to our people about Afghanistan. Remember George Bush, victory now. We won victory just a couple months after we started bombing Afghanistan. Well, we lost that war. We lost the Vietnam War. No, we never said it. You look at critical events in the United States. There's no election fraud. 3 Mile Island didn't release any information or radiation into the air. Going all the way back, we have all this disinformation of real events that really happened, and the information was withheld from the American people. Well, I don't trust the government if there's a nuclear attack to do anything, to tell us the truth. I want to know, because I can measure radiation. I can look at the background radiation right now, which I'm doing. It's 8 microsieverts. That's standard background radiation. But if I notice that thing go up to 100 microsieverts, I know something was wrong. I wouldn't have to wait for someone to tell me. What happens if the radio, what happens at the same time they orchestrated that, they took down radio communication and you couldn't transmit? Then you're left in the dark. I mean, it's like the police, there's someone at my door breaking in. Well, hold on, we'll be there in a little bit. Well, what does that mean? The burglar is going to be in my house in a minute, and you're taking 20 minutes to get here? That's not a good equation. For me, it isn't. The people on the other end, they don't care. So that's where we're at. But I read this thing about this public service announcement. It's a government. Are they going to waste money on doing? I mean, are they really going to make a public service announcement for either one or two reasons? One, the threat is real, or two, they want to traumatize you. Again, more trauma. You were in law enforcement, Doug. How many people have you seen with trauma-induced illness?
More than I have not interacted with. I would
Yeah.
say,
And so,
that the variety of those that we interact with have some sort of trauma-based background.
yeah, anybody who's been in that situation, well, they're doing it to the whole nation right now. It's a trauma event after trauma event after trauma event, and it's the goal. And this is what you have to realize: what their goal for you is, and it's actually to depersonalize you and to discourage you, no hope, and no future. That's what they want, because when they come in with their great reset, they want you to be so traumatized, so lacking of hope, so lack of motivation, because everything you've had has been taken away or destroyed. You'll jump at what they offer you. And what they offer you is just an internment camp in the end. I mean, whether it's countrywide, making a big country into an internment camp, which is what they're doing now, or actually rounding people up and putting them in internment camps, which that'll happen to certain people. They'll round them up and put them in an internment camp. But the solution to it's always been the same. Step out of the system. Don't go in the system. Turn the system off, and then realize the mechanisms by which the system uses to control people. When famine hit Egypt, I mean, you know, all the good that Joseph did, he did use the food to coerce the people into signing over everything that they had. And that's what ended up happening. People signed over everything they had to him. And I think that's coming now. You know, we're seeing this housing bubble getting ready to pop. And when it pops, it's going to be traumatic, because so many people have built houses in the last 2 or 3 years when inflation has been so high and these prices on these houses are escalated. People were paying what, $25, $45 for a sheet of OSB, which normally would run about $10, $12. And so the house price is way overinflated. Well, when the correction comes, they're going to be getting a note from their bank saying you got to stroke a check for, you know, $200,000 to stay above water in your house. If not, we're going to liquefy your house and sell it at a loss, because, you know, you don't have any equity in it right now. And they won't. The equity will have been gone. And so it's going to be another trauma event to the American people. Your dollar right now, as we see inflation just eviscerate the dollar, it's another trauma event for the American people. And the goal, I mean, the goal of what they're doing is absolutely your destruction of everything to do with your individuality, your self-reliance, your friends, your church, any of those connections, to get rid of them so that you become a ward of the state, a dependent of the state, and the state only. The state becomes your God. That's who you bow down to. And people don't think, well, I'd never bow down to the state. Well, you do. Or right now, are you repeating the narrative of the state? You know, vaccinations, all this other thing. I think it was San Diego Police Force has let 1/3 of their police officers go because they won't get vaccinated at a time when crime is soaring.
Well, right now, the DOD announced that they have 65,000 military service members in the Army, just in the Army, that is pending a separation of service because of the jab.
Yeah. And so it's a trauma event. That's what they're seeking to do, is a trauma event on people. And so again, eventually people become so discouraged, so despondent, so lack of hope that they give up. And that's what this is trying to drive you. No hope. Whereas God gives us hope, they want to take the hope away. And the hope is, I mean, it's easy to do. As you mentioned at the beginning of the program, I counsel people all the time. I don't charge for it. I appreciate when you buy something for my business. It keeps me in business to keep doing it. But you know, I will counsel you and give you the best advice I know as far as developing a plan for you. You're based on your family size, your family structure, age, you know, that where your geographic location is, your financial structure, how much money you have to spend on that you can do. I don't charge people for that, because I just think right now, you know, prepping is the best national security program the United States could have. We used to have a national prepping program. It was called civil defense, where we actually made publications on how to build a bunker, how to store food, how to store water. You mentioned radiation. Well, you know, even though there are filters that take out radiation, you have to remember gas masks will take out radiation, but you've got a filter right here that it's irradiated. And if you've got radionucleotides in your filter, you're radiating your whole jawbone here. There's ways to actually help that. If you put a little piece of like coffee filter taped over the inlet to a standard 40 millimeter filter, it prevents that from getting in there. You can clean it up. It becomes a little more difficult to breathe, but you can actually prevent that stuff from getting inside the filter where it's just sitting right next to your jaw. Same thing with a water filter. You can actually take a coffee filter and wrap it around the inlet to a pumping water filter, and it'll keep crud out of the water filter. The water filter might filter, but you're just going to clog it up quicker. With a 40 millimeter filter, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to keep the radionuclides from getting in there where it can just, play havoc on your whole body. Same thing with a water filter. If you filter radioactivity out of your water, those radioactive particles are in the water filters themselves, and you've got to deal with it. That's where, if I was in a big city, I would have some level of water stored. Not that I'm going to filter, but I'm going to store. There's all kinds of, you can go to websites and find out the amount of bleach you need to add to the water to keep it good. But in the end, I tell people, I don't care if I've stored the water for just a week. If I've stored water, I'm going to filter it before I drink it. Just as a matter of procedure, I'm going to do that. So, having a water filter is good, but even storing water, and there's a product we sell called Water Brick. They're 2.5 gallon little things. You can stack them on top of one another. And the nice thing about a water brick is you put it in your freezer, put a couple of them in your freezer now. If the power goes out, take them out of the freezer and put them in your refrigerator to keep your refrigerator cold for 3 or 4 days. So it acts as the old ice box, that's just something you can do. But yeah, so we're being traumatized right now. I'm just looking down this list. I mean, just the new monkeypox, and now we've got Ninja, the new, oh my gosh,
the scary new boogeyman.
Yeah, the scary new boogeyman. And it's just massive lies, massive fraud. It's empowering the government when this happens. I'm reading right now that the cases of monkeypox are doubling every week. So eventually that just becomes an exponential explosion. And even though it's located in one specific demographic of people right now, monkeypox is still highly contagious. Most pox viruses are highly contagious. So it was just like AIDS. When AIDS first came out, it was centralized in one community, and then it just spread and spread and spread to where even casual sex with regular normal sex, it was spread. And I think that's what they plan on doing with monkeypox. It could be a form of shingles. I don't know what in shingles it could, because if people are saying it's extremely painful, and so it might be that they're spreading. We don't really know. Again, more trauma.
You know what it makes me realize when we talk about, especially in the terms of epidemiology, obviously over 2020 into now, I've researched quite a bit into epidemiology and virology. Not that I'm a virologist or epidemiologist. I've just been studying it because I want to understand the symptoms and what people are saying whenever they're saying it on an NSA, right? Because I want to hear, I want to understand what the doctors are saying. Now, what I've realized, and obviously this isn't really, groundbreaking information, but if you have a compromised immune system and you already have bad health, your compromised immune system then extends its lifetime into a longer preceding compromised immune system. So what does that mean? If you're already out of shape, if you're overweight, if you have bad allergies, if you're, unfortunately a diabetic, you're on any type of dialysis machine, you have any type of disease, your immune system's already compromised, your body's already constantly fighting for its own health. And then you introduce something like COVID-19, and that compromises the body even more. And then you have something that's just a little bit more deadlier introduced. So it extends and it carries down the even worse, I guess you could say, factions of diseases that are out there, because they're going to mutate constantly. And it doesn't matter how many different types of immunities that you have or immunizations that you have. The diseases are proven to mutate. And so once they're proven to mutate, after so many generations of mutation, the immunization doesn't work anymore. And the doctors have told us this, right? So you continue to evolve in this new type of germ warfare, which is what I think it is. Eventually, you'll have an entire population who eats Cheetos all day. The people that are on welfare or, can barely fit in chairs, which doesn't make sense to me, because you go outside this country, if you're on welfare, you can see your rib bones, right? So America has been fed, literally fed, how to be unhealthy, how to be unclean, And the moment you would think that the strongest nation in the world got introduced something that's just a little bit worse than the cold, why did we have so many compromised immune systems? And it's a generational problem. It's not going to get any better within the next year or two.
Doug, the number one people take immune suppressants. 99.999% of people in this country take immune suppressants on staggering levels, and they don't even know it, because sugar is an immune suppressant. You can go and watch YouTube videos where they've shown it is an immune suppressant. It suppresses your immune system. And that's why everything has sugar in it. Now, sugar is defined as a carbohydrate. So, I mean, you eat your bag of Cheetos, your bags of potato chips, your bags of this, your Cokes, your candy bars, whatever it is. You're just absolutely destroying your immune system. And that's why we see people that have metabolic stress syndrome, because the food, all the stuff they've eaten, the medication, you look at let's just say we're talking about this ethereal kingdom right now. So this ethereal kingdom, people have been taking this magic medicine that they give everybody, but the people who took the magic medicine all get sick. Because we can't talk about certain things. So I'm just going to put in that. And that's what we see. How many people right now that are getting the very thing that they were told they wouldn't get if they took the very thing that was supposed to cure it? Right now, everybody's getting sick, and now they're having to point fingers. There's so much finger pointing going on. 1, 2, 3, 4, the J's, and you're still getting sick and dying. It's a trauma event. And this is what we have to understand. They understand the benefit of what trauma does. I've had trauma-related illness. I know what it does to somebody. You've probably experienced it to some degree. I've known a lot of Marines and soldiers that have had trauma-related injuries. I've even some of the people that they made movies about. I'm not going to go into the thing, but there's been movies about recent events. And I know some of those people had trauma-related injuries. And it's just what they're doing to the entire American people right now. And so there's a cure. And that is, what the Bible tells us, come out from among them. If you're eating boxed food 24/7, that's what you're eating. And, if you're not eating, what do they say? An apple before bed keeps the doctor begging for bread. When's the last time Americans eat apples? When do they eat healthy food? I mean, they always grab burgers at fast food restaurants. Nothing wrong with a well-cooked burger, of real meat without, hormones and antibiotics and all the other stuff in it. But when's the last time we put leafy vegetables, green? You should be eating every color of the spectrum of food. There's reds, oranges, yellows, blues. All those things have phytonutrients in it that your body needs, and it builds healthy immune systems. I'm a gardener. I don't grow plants, is what I tell people. I build dirt. If I build healthy dirt, the plants grow healthy. I mean, we have blueberry bushes, and I feed them organically. And I go out there. I mean, Doug, we had so many blueberries in those bushes. I'd go out there and just gorge myself on them. Just eat and eat. I just love blueberries. And we just get bunches more. Well, I mean, most Americans today are eating, they're being traumatized. Another level of trauma is by the food they eat. It's actual physical trauma to your body. The medicine you're taking is physical trauma to your body. The programming that you're watching on TV is physical trauma to your body. The education we're getting is, especially for children. I mean, children are so impressionable. They're not helping these children develop. They are traumatizing these children to accept a lifestyle that is just absolutely abhorrent. I mean, nothing in that nature practices that lifestyle, but they're being traumatized. And that's what we see in America today. We have a traumatized society that is this close to accepting the Great Reset. And if you don't want to be in that boat when it happens, start coming out from the system. Start understanding, I've got to eat a good diet. Start understanding, I'm sitting in a chair, but it's not attached by glue to my butt. I'm supposed to go out and work and sweat and do hard labor. Even at 66, I go out there and I come in, my shirt's drenched, because I'm working. I'm not just sitting in a chair all day long. I go to the gym. I mean, I can't do what I could do when I was in my 30s. I was a 400-pound bench presser. If I tried that now, I'd crush my chest in, but I still go and bench press, and so I do that. I come out from the system. Do I want to be dependent on them when the food does collapse, which they're bringing our nation to collapse? We see it, the Great Reset being implemented in places like New Zealand and Sri Lanka and all these other places. Germany right now, energy, they're having to maybe switch back to coal, which I don't think they'll be able to do because there'll be too many protests about coal-fired plants and this it'll break apart. As we see this system break apart, where are you going to be? Are you going to be the person who's taken the initiative to get out from that system, grow your own food, know what to eat, how to supply your own food? Can you hunt? I mean, all those things that you need to do to supply your food. Do you know how to maintain your health? Again, my wife, every once in a while I get a nausea thing going on, and she has this tea concoction she makes. She's a naturopathic doctor. So, it's not just some tea bag. She has these different teas she puts in and steeps it and gives it to me. And I'm telling you, my stomach nausea goes away. Whatever she puts in it, I know there's mint in it and chamomile and some other things. But do we want to learn the medicines of the earth that God gave us? Or do we want to go and take a pill? And that's the solution. Take a pill.
Yeah.
Take a pill.
And I don't trust the big pharma. I don't trust those guys at all.
Look what they did with hydrocodone. They gave everybody hydrocodone and got everybody addicted to it. And then to get off the hydrocodone, we're going to give you the magic drug Suboxone, which is about 4 times as addictive as the morphine. And
go ahead and try heroin, because the thing to get you off of that is meth.
Yeah, well, they would give you Suboxone, which is a extremely powerful. I've known people on it, and I had talked to a doctor one time. He said he's only known 2 people who've ever gotten off of it, because it is about 4 or 5 times more addictive than opiates, and so they get people addicted to this drug, and then they can't get off of it, and they got lifetime patients for Suboxone.
Well, let's switch gears here for a second. Because I'm on your website, and I'm just checking out some of the stuff that you have, all the survival water filters, and all of them are great, by the way. I strongly recommend the survival filter straws, which they're good, but you have to take into consideration what it is that's in your hand. But the Berkey water filter systems, the rainfall water systems, the reverse osmosis systems, all these things are great, and none of them are cheap, folks. Good gear is not cheap. Cheap gear is not good. Get that through your mind. There's a lot of people who message me all the time, and look, I'm not going to put down anybody at all based on your financial situation. Everybody is struggling right now. If you can't afford night vision, I get that. Call Bob Griswold, and you can talk to the man about how to potentially set yourself up for that. However, if you're not set up for the basic survival requirements, you can throw night vision out the freaking window. You need to have something. So I have a question for you. Based off the 1950s, we had fallout shelters were, 1950s, 1960s. If you were a well-to-do family, you had the Sydney shelter. Isn't that what it was called? Or Cindy shelter. I think it was Robert Cindy that made them. And
yes.
These shelters were not always above ground. Remember, there were the big wooden boxes. It was just a portable shelter.
Civil defense had numerous ways to build shelters. Newspapers, magazines, and that's shielding is what it is. And you could build a newspaper, magazine, water is excellent shielding against nuclear radiation. That's why you always see the radioactive, there's in pools of water. It not only keeps it cool, but it's also shields it from the radiation escaping. There's all kinds of ways to improvise a nuclear radiation shelter. Obviously, inside, the closer you get to the inside of your house, the more you're going to be protected. I love having in my truck what's called a Lifesaver jerry can system. It's a 20-liter 5-gallon jerry can. You can fill it up anywhere with dirty water. Put the filter back on. The filter's actually in the thing you screw on. You can actually pump it up, put it under pressure, so it comes out under pressure. It filters down to the viral level. So it's viral spores, bacteria, sediments. It's under $300. Most people are out of stock on them right now. I still probably have about a dozen in stock. But that to me is excellent. It's very heavy plastic. So you're going to be, it's going to be rugged. It's meant for military, and a lot of militaries do use them because they're very rugged. But again, all this is available. And what you do, self-reliance, it prevents you from being traumatized. If you have a year's worth of food in your house and all of a sudden food's no longer available, you're not going to be traumatized like your next door neighbor is. I mean, because maybe, you know, I have a baby. If I'm 66, I don't think I'm not going to change my name to Abraham. But if my wife and I had a baby, I would stockpile. I mean, she would obviously do it the natural way of breastfeeding, but I would probably also stockpile some formula. Because even in the end, if my baby doesn't need it, I can always trade it to somebody, barter with it. And having that formula, I know read story after story of women who were traumatized by they couldn't get formula for their babies. Well, that trauma is meant to be. Do you understand? Get this. They are on purposely traumatizing you to fit you into their great reset mold. It's not an accident. It's purposeful. That's why they're destroying the food plants. That's why they're destroying animals through disease, the cows dying, all that. It's all done to traumatize you. You go to the grocery store, you look at what do they call it? Sticker shock. Well, that's trauma. You're experiencing, oh my gosh, I can't afford this anymore. How am I going to feed my family? It's all trauma, and it's all done on purpose. Get out from that system. Become self-reliant, because Jesus said it's going to be like birth pangs, you know. And what Americans love to do is we see this big spike. Oh, the war in Ukraine. Well, the war in Ukraine, now it's yesterday's news. So the threat level in their mind goes down, and we can go back to normal. Well, it's not normal. Normal was way down here. Your new normal is way up here. It's just that when they spike it, everybody goes crazy over the spike, whatever it'll be. And then every time the new normal gets a little worse and a little worse and a little worse. But it's like birth pangs. They start out a half an hour apiece, mild pain. And by the time the baby's ready to come, you're at a minute or two apart, and the pain's severe. So we're being pushed down that avenue right now. My hope is the labor brings forth the kingdom of God. Theirs is they want to bring about the great reset. That's what they're pushing you towards. And until you can understand that and visualize it and see that's their goal, I want to know my enemy. I want to know what his goal is, because I can plan for it. If I know the enemy's going to move over here and I can move over there, hey, I'm going to be out of his his reach. So when the enemy is trying to push all of humanity here, I want to look at that and say, how do I get over here out of his reach? Right. And I don't want to get there and say I'm going to fight him. He's more powerful than me.
Well, let's say you have the ability to build your own shelter, and you know, for whatever reason you can't be in your home anymore, or you know, it's just the fact that let's say if the power got cut off, because that's a thing I just cannot get over, is when the power gets cut off, people do not understand, unless you've lived with no power, what a game changer that is. I've lived through that, being in Hurricane Alley in Southeast Texas growing up. I've lived through that with the military. Hey man, if you have never experienced just a week's worth of high tropical environment and no air conditioning, I mean, of course, you know, I'm going to say it. I was, you know, trained in Hawaii, but you're talking about 100% humidity, 90 degrees or more during the summer. It's hot. It is rank. And, you know, you're not bathing. It's nasty. And any infection, any small cut turns into a potential major infection. So when you don't have that environment, that anesthetic-like environment anymore that we can keep with these houses now, you know, I have an air purifier in every single room. You know, I keep the house as clean as possible. We have Clorox everywhere. All right. However, when that stuff's gone, you need to potentially move out of that home. How would you set it up? One of the things that I've thought around in my head, and I have one of them outside, but I'm thinking about getting more, are these tunnel gardens. And I think about, if you set up the tunnel garden correctly, using ram earth along the sides to keep it, you know, protected along the sides, and you build a nice door to the front, and you know, seal that as tight as possible, you can connect these for a very long way, and you could potentially still have your garden and a living area inside of it, all wrapped in together. Now, it's not going to be 100% airtight. So, you know, that's always going to be something that we're going to fight, but the average person can afford that, because you know, you can go to Amazon right now, Bob, and you can find a 10-foot wide, 7-foot tall by 20-foot long, you know, tubular tunnel garden, and spend about $400 to $600 on it. That's an ad hoc shelter right there in the box, and it takes a couple hours to put together. So let's say you have something like that in your storage for your get out of town bag, and you move off the X, which is your house, into your bug out location. Would that be something that could be used beneficially for survival as an ad hoc encampment. What do you think about that?
Well, anything, any type of shelter, because, shelter is the number one primary concern. If you're exposed to the elements, people think I'm just going to go out in the woods and build a shelter and all that. It's a lot more than that. Having an improvised shelter you can put up real quick, even if you are going to build an extended shelter on property, it's a little bit more complex. You need to immediately get out of the weather. If you're in the weather, you're going to die. You're going to get rained on one time. And even if it's 60 degrees outside, if you're being rained on, you're going to get hypothermic real quick. Maybe 70, maybe not. But, if you're diving in 60-degree water, you might get acclimated to it. And I've dove in 60-degree water before, and I jumped in in 10 minutes, I'm acclimated to it. But my body the heat is being sucked out of my body so fast. You've got to be very careful, because you can get hypothermia very quickly and 60 degrees. It just can happen. So you got to get shelter. Any kind of improvised shelter will do. Preferably, I tell people, if you're going to be staying in a tent for a long period of time, get a 3 or 4 season tent, not a Walmart tent, which is basically for once a year camping type thing. You want a 3 to 4, preferably a 4 season tent. That's the kind of tent you'd take up to Everest with you. It's gonna last a long time. It's gonna be durable.
And they're not going to be very big either.
No. And again, I'd want a earth tone color. I don't want something bright orange. I just don't want that. I'm going to want an earth tone color in my tent. Snug Pack, we sell them. They make some very, very good tents. We have them in stock, and they're 3 and 4 season tents that you can go. It's made by ProForce in the United States. I've got one in my bug home bag in my car, so I can actually do it. It's actually a bivvy, so I can just scooch in that thing and still see outside and keep myself out of the elements on the way home. But that's all part of it. And again, this is all part of coming out from this system. It's not that we have to fully extricate ourselves from the system, but we have to develop a network outside the system, because if you're inside the system, you are going to be driven to their goal. And their goal is the extermination of people. That's what their goal is, to exterminate. I mean, they just said they're going to have 8 billion people on it soon. Well, they want to get rid of 7.5 billion people. And everything they do will do that. I mean, that's why I think we're headed towards nuclear war. I think eventually that's where it's going to go, because they're pushing so hard on the Russians to commit nuclear war. I mean, the Russians know what armies on their borders mean. Hitler did it, and they knew what that cost. So we're going to have an enemy army in Finland, an enemy army already in Poland, an enemy army in Ukraine. And that means they're just getting encircled, and they know what that means. And at the same time, China is seeking naval supremacy. Their rocket program is staggering. I mean, I have to hand it to the Chinese. They're really developing rocket programs, not only to take over the moon and mine the moon for its natural resources. We went to the moon in the 1970s. We haven't been back. I mean, why? The moon is filled with so many natural resources we could use on Earth. Tritium, which is expensive. We could mine that. There's water there. We know it, but we won't go back for some reason. We're letting the Chinese now, intelligence reports coming out say they're going to take over the moon and use the moon for their own harvest, which is trillions of dollars in wealth. It's just we're just being traumatized. I hate to keep throwing that word out, but that's what it is. And coming out from that system, developing your own medicine, developing your own food sources, developing the ability to have water, developing the ability to detect. I want to detect when a nuclear accident happens, whether it's a bomb or a nuclear power plant or whatever. I want to know. I'm looking on my desk right now. I can see what the radiation is at my desk right now. And that would tell me I don't need to be on the radio waiting for someone to tell me, because that might be 2 or 3 days later, almost when my butt's been nuked. And I might be, walking dead man, because I didn't know, and I didn't take the corrective measures to shield myself from radiation. I want to be. It's me. I'm the one. When a doctor asks me, who's your primary care physician? I look at him and I go, I am. I'm my primary care provider. I'm the one who resists the midnight snack urge, to go down and get some ice cream. I'm the one who wants my weight. I'm the one who eats good food. You don't do that for me. I do it. That means I'm providing for my healthcare far more than you'll ever do. So it is the self-reliant life, and the self-reliant program is something where you take charge of your life and all aspects of your life, your food, your water, your education, your resources and you network with people. If you can't afford it all yourself, you find people and network with them, so that this one radiation meter right here, I can protect my entire community with it, because I can say, listen, this is what's going on. And I can let my community know. So no matter what the disinformation came out of Washington, I could say, here it is right here. This is calibrated. I just got it. It's calibrated. And just think how many people that could save, because, we've seen they lied at 3 Mile Island. Obviously, the people in Chernobyl lied. Anytime there's been a release.
Yeah, listen to this.
There's still radiation in the atmosphere from the 1960s when they blew up all those atomic bombs. It's still up in the stratosphere coming down. And you can watch the rate of cancers increase globally as we did those 150 some open air nuclear tests.
Yeah, and Russia's Tsar bomb that they did, the biggest nuclear explosion ever, did up there in the atmosphere.
That shockwave circled the Earth 3 times. The shockwave
right.
from that 3 times it went around the planet.
And I'm sure that never came down in rain either. Sure that.
Never in rain.
Yeah.
Never in particulate dust anywhere. I mean, that thing went up over 100,000 feet in the air. It got into the stratosphere, where it starts circling the globe, and slowly that falls out of the atmosphere, and it does that. So I want to know anymore. I want to know. I don't trust the government agencies at all. We're winning the war in Ukraine. Well, I don't think we are. I think Zelensky's going to win this. I think the Russians are going to play this out and play it out. They're going to do a Muhammad Ali rope-a-dope, and they're going to play it out. And you can see the United States has already lost interest in it. I mean, all the church prayers.
We're sending, it was just announced today that we're going to send another $1.7 billion. Within the past week, I've seen 3 or 4 different notifications from the White House that, hey, we're going to send 330 million. We're going to send 67 million. Then we're going to send, here's another 500 million. And now we're going to send another 1.7 billion. I mean, where the hell is all of our money going? Listen to this, folks. We're talking about nuclear. Yeah, we're talking about.
Hunter Biden is selling our strategic oil reserves to China. While our gas prices are higher than they've ever been, he's out there making a buck on your sweat and back. When you go to the gas station and go, oh my gosh, how am I going to buy groceries when I fill up my tank? He's sitting there selling the strategic oil reserves that your tax dollars bought. He's selling it to the Chinese.
I want to make a law enforcement reference to Hunter Biden and selling our technology, by the way, and also our oil. If China is where he's getting his meth from, then his addiction funneled by China. So every time he sees his masters, the dog gets a biscuit. And you create that relationship so that they always go back. And they always go back. We've seen this in law enforcement with people who always go back to the same crack house. They always go back to the same, area to get their narcotics. Even if they've been clean for years, they just have the itch. They go back to the same area. You can always find them in the same area. I bet you there's a connection between where Hunter gets his narcotics and China. Not just fentanyl. I don't think they'd feed him fentanyl because they want to keep the idiot alive, but feeding him weed, feeding him crack, feeding him cocaine, feeding him heroin. I guarantee you he's getting it from China.
And hookers.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, let's not forget, he has a propensity for hookers and multiple hookers at a time.
Yep.
I mean,
filming himself, constantly filming himself. And now, hey, Pedo Peter is all across the internet. You call your own dad pedophile Peter.
Yeah.
Come on, folks. Here, listen to this. Since the 1950s, there have been 32 broken arrows. So if you don't know what a broken arrow event is, a broken arrow event is defined as an unexpected event involving nuclear weapons that result in the accidental launching, firing, detonating, theft, or loss of the weapon. To date, 6 nuclear weapons have been lost and never recovered in the United States.
There's one sitting off the South Carolina border right now, buried in the ocean somewhere. We don't know where it's at. If that thing detonated, it would create an atomic tidal wave that would inundate the whole coastline of North Carolina. Yeah, it fell off a D-52, and we've never found it.
They had one plunge off the plane. It got released from the plane, and it's always by accident, by the way. And it hit somewhere in the North Carolina, South Carolina swamp. and they had to completely drain the entire swamp to get this thing recovered. But it's happened in Nevada. It's happened all across the country. It happened in between somewhere in the Yellow Sea, in between China and Japan. And Japan and China were both like, if you ever fly a plane with a nuclear weapon over us, we're going to shoot it down, and then we're going to fight you for it. Like, they straight up, both those nations said, we will come against you if you do that again, because here we are just flying our plane and poof, a live nuclear weapon somewhere off in the Yellow Sea. And this has happened so many times.
Go Google how many nuclear reactors the Soviets just dumped at sea.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that was their preferred method of getting rid of a nuclear reactor. When their submarines or something was decommissioned, just go dump it at sea. Well, that irradiates the food supply. Again, why do I want a radiation meter? So I can literally test my food. That one for sub $200 will test your food. Milk, I've always tell people, is the bellwether because of the calcium. The cows eat grass. Calcium absorbs the radiation. It gets in the milk. You can test the milk for radiation, and you know whether it's good or not. But I mean, again, it just takes people who are willing to be deprogrammed, and we all know what deprogramming is. I've met people that believe in a flat Earth, and they are willing to fight you over a flat Earth. It doesn't matter that there's thousands of people who've been into space. Tens of thousands of satellites have been up there videoing. It's all, CGI. It's all fake. It's all that, and you can't talk them out of it. You can watch somebody sail over the horizon. I mean, I've flown high enough that I can see the curvature of the Earth, and it doesn't matter. And I think the vast majority of Americans are in that situation today, because if the vast majority of Americans were awake right now, your grocery stores would be empty.
Well, let me ask you something. Let me ask you a very, very touchy subject, and this pertains to me as well. I've thought about this scenario quite a bit. Prophecy hits the van. You need to bug out or bug in. Do you kick the dogs and cats outside?
Well, I mean, the dogs might become food. I hate to admit it. It just might become food. It'd have to depend. I mean, the dogs are eating all over the planet, and people eat them. And I hate to admit, you're eating Fido, but it's just, we have no idea the dynamic of what people face. If you've ever been in third world countries, which I've been in quite a few of them, if you've ever been in third world countries, you'll see how people exist. You go to Pakistan and people live, and they find a piece of cardboard. That's part of their house. They find, oh my gosh, I found a piece of plexiglass. Now I have a window. And they build these absolute shanty towns, dirt floors.
In parts of Iraq and Afghanistan, I mean, some of the little huts that we were going in is made out of manure. Manure bricks.
And the paradigm we have in this country, we have no idea where a large portion of the world lives. And so when this happens, when they've collapsed the entire system, and I think I'll ask you a question. I think there's a message in the Georgia Guidestones happening. To me, I've questioned how quick was that crime scene torn down? What federal agency would ever authorize a crime scene like that to be torn down within 12 to 18 hours?
I've worked with the FBI. I've worked with the FBI bomb squad. I've had briefings from them before, and great people. Scare the hell out of you with what they know. They know by the way a bomb is made, if a man or woman made it, by the certain tension put on the caps. Crazy and proven right, like 99% of the time. There's a real science behind it. But those people are so analytical, Bob, that for a post-blast site analysis, they will sit there for days. They'll sift through everything. But you mean to tell me that the FBI bomb squad, who every single bomb that's exploded is a training event for us to learn, right? And also for the GBI bomb squad or the local bomb squad and the ATF, you mean to tell me all these agencies are like, hey, you know what? Knock it down. We don't care. No, they're going to say, hey, we have jurisdiction. It'll be a jurisdictional fight between the agencies. The FBI will always win, but it'll be a jurisdictional fight to keep that crime scene. And then you get even more kudos if you can uncover what happened and prove all the different things that were used, and you'll use that for your warrant package for whoever the subject is. All right. And we have all the videos for it. It's not all released, but law enforcement has all the videos for it. There's already camera videos. I think it was a sapper, personally. I think it was someone who, with the military experience, the way they used cover and concealment, the way they ran out there, the way they set everything up, and the way everything happened. I think it was someone with military experience. My personal opinion, though, all right, and this is just my personal opinion. I may be wrong. I think they did it to themselves. I think whoever made the Georgia Guidestones are the same people who destroyed the Georgia Guidestones, and that's why they told law enforcement that it's private property, screw off, and destroyed it. Now, no one could prove that they did it.
Yeah, there'd be in the real world, there'd have been a tent over the whole thing, protecting it from the elements, any rain, because rain, they had to protect it. So there's something funky about it. I think it's end game, and I think that they're destroying the evidence of what they're doing. So I mean, I think we're at end game. That's me. I hope I'm wrong, but I think history, biblical knowledge, all of it, I think it shows we're at end game of this empire, and we just see the disease. The inflation, the job loss, the Hunger Games, all the shortages of everything, gas prices, it's all end game scenario. And that's why I encourage people, come out from among them. If you haven't started preparing, prepare, but it's late down the game. And make sure you can filter your water, make sure that you can eat, make sure that you can grow food, even in your house. If you get a grow light, you can grow potatoes will keep you alive for a long time. Potatoes are not hard to grow. You can grow them in a bucket. If it's drained well and you have a grow light, you can grow potatoes in a bucket. I've done it. And carrots, high calorie foods you can grow, and just even a little bit of extra food can go a long, long way in a crisis situation. I can promise you, if I had one potato and you were starving, you'd give me anything you want. So one potato can keep you alive for a while because a lot of calories and a lot of it's starch. It's good food if you're hungry. You can grow them. I mean, you can get dehydrated. We sell them from different companies. Dehydrated potatoes. I love hash browns. In my own personal thing, I have, I think 8 cases of hash browns, something like that, because I enjoy them. I mean, nothing more than my wife puts paprika and all that. Nothing good in the morning to get you filled up and get you going. But it's there. We're at end game. If you don't see it,
what's the caloric intake that you would put your average man at? Or average woman at?
Today in America, the caloric content isn't as important as the quality of what you're putting in. I mean, we see Americans that gorge on thousands of calories a day in Cheetos, Cokes, hamburgers, fries, and that's not what's important. This is what I tell people: the deceptiveness. I've been in selling food for a long time, freeze-dried food, and I've never seen more lying, more cheating, more deception in selling freeze-dried food than any other part of the prep market. It's wrought with deception. I mean, 2,000 calories a day, and I actually looked at it one time. There was 18 cans of orange drink in their 2,000 calories. That's like cans of sugar with orange flavoring in it. So, it's the quality of the food as well as the quantity. An average man, 2,000, average woman, 1,500, you can get by on less. That's why I tell people to stockpile, even buying it locally, beans and rice, make sure you put it in buckets with oxygen absorbers in it, because if you don't, critters are going to get to it. But you can always supplement, regular food with rice and beans. It's good protein, good calories. But, that's basic. If you're out there chopping wood, or if you're doing patrols, through the woods, you're going to burn, if you're an active young man, you're going to burn 3,000 to 4,000 calories a day. Yeah. That's when a military MRE is 1,800 calories, and they give a working soldier 2 of those a day. That's 3,600 calories. And those soldiers ain't getting fat off those things. That means they're burning them up.
Yeah, you're still hungry. You're still hungry, and they taste like garbage.
I know.
It's not fun to eat those.
My son, when my son came back from Iraq, and I showed him the MRE hot dogs. The 5 fingers of death. That's what he called them. It's that they all had their nicknames for him. But I always like that one, the 5 fingers of death. But you again, the thing is now is coming out from the system, because all indications, everything indicates collapse is imminent. It's here. And they throw us a bone. And this is what I think the psychological trauma of what's been done to people, to throw you a bone. Oh, we won the Second Amendment issue. But they already see them circumventing those laws. They're already going around them to keep the restrictions. Oh, we want abortion. The states are already circumventing all that. They're going to have the military give abortions throughout the United States on that. They're going to put offshore clinics. I mean, just everything. The companies are already saying, if you need an abortion, we'll ferry you somewhere to get you an abortion. So, I mean, lawless people are not going to be stopped by laws. They're not. And that's what we have to.
You believe they have a boat off of, I think it's the coast of Alabama, that they're going to have for abortions?
I know, they just fly, take 12 miles offshore and get an abortion.
That is millions of dollars, millions of dollars to keep that infrastructure going.
Satan doesn't mind. He wants the blood. That's the bottom line of it. It's the blood sacrifice of children. I think anybody who's been in this, in that arena very long knows what it is. If you have any questions, just go to veteransforchildrescue.com. And look up Craig Sawman Sawyer, former Navy SEAL. He goes into it all, exposes. Yeah, great man. A man has served his country with nobility. I mean, devout Christian man. I love him. I mean, he doesn't know me as well, but I love the guy. I just love what he does. And I think he's Veterans for Child Rescue is definitely worth supporting with your money. But we see most Americans are traumatized beyond reaction now. They're just, you've seen this, that 1,000-yard stare, you've seen that in people. You see that 1,000-yard stare because they've been so traumatized, they can't think. They just turn the entertainment on, dance for me, anything to avoid looking at the reality. That 1,000-yard stare. I walk down the street and I train my mind to work that way. I just look at people and look at them in the eyes and you see just like hopelessness, despondency. And we see it reflected. I'm not just seeing things because look at the suicide rate, look at the drug addiction rate, look at the obesity rate, look at the different things people do just to try to numb it all. I drink, I eat, I sex. I mean, the Hunter Biden thing. And then, good grief, what hasn't he slept with? I don't even answer that question.
Keep them away from the zoo.
Yeah, definitely my children. But for those who are willing to come out of this system, there's plans God lays on our hearts. You know that plan. I have it in my heart. Jamie Walden, Steve Quayle, Doug Hagman, Dave Hodges, Mike Adams. Those are people that are telling the message right now of what to do and presenting the news. But so many of Americans are like, I watch CNN, I get my news from CNN and MSNBC. I mean, that's what they're like. And, quite frankly, when the system collapses, they're not going to care anything about you. You think they care about you. For so many years, I think the Black community is waking up to it. They thought the Democrats cared for them. And I think now more and more Black leaders are thinking, I'm just a slave on the farm to them. That's all I am.
What's
a slave on the farm.
What's very interesting about that, and I have plenty of Black friends who we've talked about this, is like the demasculation of Black men has been on the rise lately. I was just randomly on the internet and I was looking up hoop greenhouses and how to make them on a PVC pipe, right? And for whatever reason, I'm looking at the images, trying to find different designs, and this young Black dude in a dress with a Nike t-shirt on and promoting like Nike basketball shoes. And I'm looking at this, I'm like, I don't know what I'm staring at right now. This is a basketball player in a white dress promoting basketball shoes. Why is he in a dress? What the hell is happening? I hear about how people are rebelling against the system constantly, and then you find garbage like this, and I'm going, what the hell is going on with you, America? Stop this. We're going to lose everything.
That's what it's designed for. We know that. Again, I'm going to throw the word out again. It's designed to commit trauma, mental trauma, physical trauma, emotional trauma. And so you become despondent, hopeless. You throw up your hands, and we just see record numbers of children, record numbers of adults killing themselves. We see record violence. I mean, I just watched a video today, and it was senseless. Two guys on the street started arguing, and it was bravado. Man, walk away. One guy pulled a knife out and right across the throat, and just enormous amounts of blood. I don't know if you saw that video. I mean, just everywhere. Just the sidewalk was immediately red.
I watched a video.
Violence. We loved it.
I watched a video last night of two teenagers in Philadelphia, I believe, that beat an older man to death with a traffic cone.
Yeah.
For what? For what reason? Hey, look what happened just recently in New York. There was a man working at a bodega, just selling magazines and soft drinks, attacked by somebody. He pulls a knife, defends himself, kills the attacker, and now he is in jail.
Rikers. They put him in Rikers.
Rikers. That's one of the deadliest places in the country for jails.
And this guy every day of his life, he'd been to the same job, worked the same job every day, spotless record. The video clearly shows he was being assaulted. The first assault he took, he got back up and the guy started assaulting him again. And he finally, I mean, you know, sooner or later in your mind, you got, this guy's serious. He's going to hurt me. And he pulls a knife out and guts him. And, you know, the guy dies. So now he's under arrest. He's going to have to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars in money, probably in attorney's fees, just to keep himself out of prison. Any savings he had will be gone. He'll probably lose his job.
I want to say this real quick for people. For this very example, if you have a concealed carry insurance, USCPA, I think is one of them.
USCCA.
Yeah, CCA. Texas Lawman's another one. They actually cover you for any type of violent interaction with people beyond just firearms. If you have to pull a knife out on somebody, hit somebody in the head with a hard object, and you accidentally kill them, they will have a lawyer on scene for you. I'm not paid to say that. I don't get sponsored by any of those people. But I'm telling you right now, as a prior cop, you better have that, because the law is not on your side anymore.
No, you know, it's against you. But again, nothing traumatizes people more than violence. You feel people, just a simple B&E. I'm at work, I have a B&E, breaking and entering. I come home, what do you feel? Violated. You feel traumatized. Someone was in my bedroom where I make love to my wife, where I have my children, and they just ransacked through all my wife's clothing. And you feel violated. Trauma. See, that's what we don't, this is the theme I want people to take away. The trauma is being done to you intentionally. This is not accidental. This isn't like, we don't know why. This is why you see these people, the district attorneys in so many cities, releasing these absolute madmen, vicious dogs that have been arrested 900 times and they're released. And then as soon as they're released, they go out and rape or murder somebody. It's being done to traumatize you. And again, this is why you carry a gun. This is why you carry a knife. This is why, you know, you take Doug Thornton and Jamie Walden's active shooter course. You start to recognize the patterns. You know, what do I need to do? How do I extricate myself from an active shooter? How do I protect myself from that? Because they're being perpetrated on the United States on purpose. It's being done deliberately. So you can be ignorant and be violated, or you can be educated and help protect yourself. But again, they don't want you to know how to act in an active shooter. The worst thing you can do, have all the kids go down in the classroom and huddle together. Well, that's just a big target to shoot at. I mean, how about teaching a couple of the bigger kids in the class to blindside themselves at the door? So when the active shooter comes in, they can engage him, grab the weapon, pointing in a safe direction, smash the guy in his snot locker, you know? But no, they don't want to teach you that. Oh God, we can't teach kids to do violence. You know, we have to tell them to huddle down on the room where they can just be big huddled mass of dead bodies.
We teach people how to be victims. And then we promote it with run, hide, fight. Now, I've taught active shooter awareness for at least 10 years to federal employees. And, you know, it's at least a program, but we talk so much about the running and the hiding, and we give about this much of the fighting. You know, in Israel, they completely almost did away with that, the run, hide, fight. If you are like 1,000 meters away from the active shooter, don't go there. If you're 100 yards away, run the opposite direction. You have a better chance of surviving. But if you're face to face with an active killer, fight. Yeah. Give yourself the ability to fight and give yourself a chance.
To me, it's conditional. If I had my grandchildren, my wife with me, I always know when I'm in a situation where if I'm ever met where the exits are at, I'm going to want to get them to safety. That's my primary concern. And so I have my grandchildren. I'm not going to fight, and I'm going to get them to safety. That's my goal at that point. If I'm alone, that's different. But know where your exit's at, know how to fight, know how to gain advantage in your position. You know, I was watching the new Terminal List with Chris Pratt.
That's
and
a
I
pretty
was
good
watching
show.
him cut the pie, slice the pie. He was walking like that, just absolutely, doing it. He knew it was classic textbook what he did in there to take out a bad guy. And you know, what do they say? Get off the mark. Don't stand still. And
Don't stand in the
he
fatal
didn't
funnel.
do that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the type of stuff that we're
moving, causing that guy to require.
And that's the type of stuff that we're going to be teaching people. Before we get off, I want to go over just a few headlines and get a quick reaction for you, because I think this is going to be entertaining. All right, first off, from the Gateway Pundit. I'm not sure if you've seen this yet. I'm sure you have, though, knowing you. They all lied, and we have proof. Highly sensitive Department of Justice January 6 documents leaked to the Gateway Pundit from the FBI confidential informant who infiltrated the Proud Boys, ran the FBI operation on January 6th, and reported to the FBI that they were innocent. They have all the text. I've seen them. They have the documents. I've seen them. And I'm telling you this much, if nothing is reversed from this, there's no hope for this current government. What do you think about this?
Well, I mean, it's case after case after case of that. Setups. I mean, look at the Governor Whitmer. I mean, it was just setup after setup after setup. Again, it breaks down the norms of a country. It breaks down the morals of the country. It's all done by design. They get political advantage from it, because how much political mileage have they tried to extract from January 6th? I mean, for one reason and one reason only, they're running January 6th, and that's to keep Donald Trump from running again. They're going to keep this alive so they can beat Donald Trump over the head as long as they can, love him or not, like him or not, good president, bad president. It's all done to keep him from running again as president. They have to keep that narrative alive. And so the truth doesn't matter. I mean, we see it all the time. The truth doesn't matter. Hillary's laptop. I mean, Hillary's public private server, Hunter Biden's laptop, the Russia disinformation. The truth doesn't matter. And again, Americans don't care. Those who have ears to hear are going to see it and say, this has the potential to end up really, really bad. Mm-hmm. If my enemy's going that way, I'm going to go that way. I'm going to try to shield myself from the blows of what he's doing. That's why I was telling people, don't go up to January 6th. Don't go there. It's going to be a dog and pony show. What did Matt Bracken call it? A buffalo run, when they run them off the cliff. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what it turned out to be. You know, I just be very careful, because we all know it's a lie. Everybody in this country knows it's a lie. The political elite are not going to let those people go. Because, you know, they're going to beat Donald Trump over the head with it. And when those people come out of prison, they're going to tell everybody, man, you don't ever want to go there. I mean, they're creating trauma victims right now. And
these people are POWs. That's what they are.
Absolutely.
They're POWs. And when they get released, they're going to, because have you seen where they're being re-educated? They're literally going through hours a day of re-education programs. And I actually saw this one poor fella. He was released from there, and he was talking about how, hey man, we're going through 5 or 6 hours a day of re-education. The government's good, the right is bad, Donald Trump is evil, Orange Man bad. This is the psychological warfare that we're going through. And you know what they want? They want to demoralize people and put you in such a state of peril that you are afraid of talking. You're afraid of talking bad about your government. That's what communists do.
What do our public schools do to children? They re-educate them. They traumatize them. I mean, what do the newspapers and the media do in this country? They traumatize you. They try to re-educate you. I mean, the whole re-education thing now, to accept that which is perverse, is in full swing. And so, Doug, we can say it so many different ways, but come out from among them. You're going to have to, sooner or later, say, I'm going to have to separate, not in a violent way. I'm promoting Martin Luther King peace. Just say, I'm not going to participate in your system anymore. You're going to have to participate a certain amount. I'm not telling people not to pay their taxes. I'm not telling people to do bad things. I'm just saying you're going to have to mentally say, I am my provider. I am my caretaker. And in order to do that, I've got to learn how to make my own food. I've got to learn how to protect myself. I've got to learn how to educate my children.
Yeah,
absolutely.
You got to be self-reliant. All right, let's go to this next article. Biden says America is awash in weapons of war and calls for more bans on assault weapons.
Well, I mean,
they're not going to give
again,
it up.
I asked the question this, Who has killed more innocent people in American history? Civilians or armed government agents? Who killed more Native Americans? Who killed more Black people? Who killed? I mean, you go along. How many dead Iraqis were there through collateral damage? Afghanis through collateral damage. I mean, you give a government official a gun and you absolve him of any of the responsibilities of that gun. And history has shown what happens. I mean, they just murder people with impunity and they get away with it. Whatever. How come we never brought to justice Joe Biden when he bombed those people in Afghanistan after the 17 soldiers were killed? Remember, he bombed those innocent people and they knew they were bombing innocent people. And children died, but nobody was ever brought to justice. If I went in and lit a bomb off and blew up a bunch of innocent people, I'd be rightfully, I'd be given the death sentence, rightfully. But they bomb people and nothing ever happens to them. So who do you trust more with a gun? I trust the mafia more with a gun than I trust the government with a gun. I do. I mean, at least, in worst case, I can shoot the mafia and maybe get away with it. You can't shoot the government and get away with it. They're gonna bury you.
Well, listen to this. Listen to this statement by the president. I have 4 shotguns. 2 were mine and 2 were my deceased sons. They're locked up, lock and key. I guarantee you right now, they're not sitting in the White House next to them, lock and key. Every responsible gun owner that I know.
Wait. Let me interrupt you. I got to make a point. And Hunter owned a gun illegally.
You mean the one he threw in the trash and made Secret Service go dive for it?
Yeah.
That makes me laugh.
He lied. He lied on the 4473. That's the form you fill out. My drug addict, my criminal, I renounce all those things. I mean, boy, it didn't keep him from getting a gun. All the rules and regulations didn't keep him from getting a gun.
Yep.
So just keep that in mind.
And you got to understand that Joe Biden does not like the weapons of mass destruction, the deadly AR-15. And just because it's a black gun, it makes it even more deadly, right? All these stupid things. You remember when he said, hey, just have your double-barreled 12-gauge shotgun. If someone comes up on your land and you don't want them there, fire one barrel off into the air to scare them away. I'll have you know, if you don't know this, that wherever you shoot your gun, wherever that bullet lands, if it kills the lady 3 blocks away, you're responsible for it. That's manslaughter. Oh, by the way, there's city ordinances for not doing that, by the way.
Yeah, of course. And here's the question. We see criminals becoming organized today. So Johnny, the criminal, breaks into your house. A single barrel shotgun is okay for him. I mean, you can take him out if you hit him, because people think if you shoot a shotgun, you're going to hit everybody in 180-degree field of view. You're not. You can miss with a shotgun at close range. People do it. But let's just say you hit Johnny. But see, the thing is, anymore, criminals are coming in 4 or 5 at a time.
Oh, criminals are coming in with body armor now.
Yeah, and so let's just say you have a hunting shotgun, which usually restricted to 3 rounds, and you fire all 3 rounds, but there's still 2 guys left. What are they going to do to you when you kill their 3 friends? What are they going to do to you? I mean, now if I have an AR-15, because how long will it take you to reload that shotgun? 10 seconds? Well, 10 seconds is that you might as well be 20 years. But if I have an AR-15 in your practice, I can take that 30-round magazine out and put another one in a second, and and keep, what do they say, spewing hate out towards those guys. But let's take that away from you, because we just see, look what the government did and sanctioned in Seattle and Portland. It was thugs en masse terrorizing people. Daddy's shotgun wouldn't have stopped them. You'd have fired Daddy's shotgun at them and they'd overcome you. If you sat there and put down concentric fields of fire on them with several people, like the Koreans did during remember the Rodney King thing, when the Koreans got on top of the building and put down fields of fire? Those protesters started thinking, man, they had a revelation from God. They had a divine revelation to them. Hey, it's not safe to go there. They went somewhere else and victimized other people. God bless those Koreans. You go watch it on YouTube. They laid down effective fields of fire. Those rioters knew.
I'll never forget the time that I saw that guy with the tactical vest, and he has a Uzi or a MAC-10 and just starts shooting into the crowd of people. Broad daylight, no care at all. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, if you want to see why you need a box-fed magazine weapon, just go to YouTube and type in Koreans defend neighborhood in Vern Rodney King, something to that effect. You'll pull up the video, and those rioters knew we're not going there. Well, that's what they don't want, because they'll send the thugs in after you. If you're politically, not astute to them or agree with them, they'll send the thugs in, and they'll send in 4 or 5 at a time. And if you're using daddy's shotgun, you're going to be overwhelmed. You won't be able to deal with it. Yeah, you might take out 1 or 2, but when you kill their buddy, they're going to absolutely, what did they say in that movie, Pulp Fiction? We're going to get a couple of hard-hitting black guys and, go to work on you. That's what they're going to do. They're going to torture you to death. And you're going to wish you had a Boxstead magazine weapon where you could have scared them off, because you start laying that down that field of fire and they're going to run. They're going to run. They're not.
And I've seen firsthand by working these riots for, numerous amounts of years, that when people get together, that mob mentality goes way past just a mob mentality. All right. They turn into a very animalistic pack hunting mentality. One guy will kick you when you're on the ground. Next thing you know, 15 guys are kicking you. And then there's always the one guy with the bike chain or the crowbar or the melee weapon.
Or the skateboard. I mean, look at Carl Rittenhouse. If he'd had a single shot shotgun, he'd have fired and got one of the guys.
Carl Rittenhouse.
Carl Rittenhouse. He would have been murdered right there on the scene. But he had something that could defend it, and he, made the guy a switch pitcher. And the rest of it, they didn't want to mess with him, and they hated him for that, because it showed the effectiveness of that weapon against a mob rule. And that's what our country's becoming, from the federal government all the way down, mob rule. All right, it's the only effective tool you have. Go ahead.
Let's go to this next one. MSNBC guest claims Supreme Court zealots are ruling based on Christian fundamentalist belief. Now,
well, I would just
this is a bad one to watch.
Let's dissect these words. Christian fundamentalist beliefs. Okay, so the right to life has 6,000 years of history taught that every civilization has a respect for life. Pretty much so. I mean, you do is murder, even in the Assyrians. I mean, even in Rome, you were crucified if you murdered somebody. I mean, granted, the government was bad, but so what they're saying are traditional values that all humanity has embraced for 6,000 years. They're demonizing it by calling right-wing zealot Christians. But these are the value of life. Civilizations haven't murdered their children. They haven't sanctioned it under codified law. They haven't endorsed the mutilation of your children so they can change gender. Anything that deals with normalcy, now that's what they're rewording it. It's Orwellian double speech. So what Christian right-wing fundamental values have been historic family values for thousands of years throughout all civilizations. Especially if I'm a Christian, but if you look in Judaism or Islam, they've all had the respect for life. They have, where murderers are put to death. They have their children. If you injure a pregnant woman, you can be charged with a double murder. So, I mean, you have to be careful of the wording they use, because they use inflammatory rhetoric to try to get you not to think, because those are reactionary terms. They're not terms to say, the Supreme Court upholds the baby's right to be born. After all, if I kill a bald eagle egg, if I take a bald eagle and egg your car with a bald eagle egg, I go to prison for 5 years. Why? I killed an embryo. No, you killed a bald eagle. But you can murder a baby, and that's okay. See, it's such duplicity. And so they use inflammatory rhetoric to try to get you not to think. And this is where you really need to think when you see these kind of words.
Well, listen to this guy. And this guy, this is Joy Reid's program called The Readout. And she's a horrific human being already. But they have a guy on there. It's an older black gentleman that's on there. And this is what he says, okay? And he's truly disturbed about the use of religious beliefs in the Supreme Court about how they make their decisions. This is supposed to have been a Christian country, but what do I know? So this is his comment, Bob. He said, they don't really need to bring in an outside group to pray, because the zealots are already on the Supreme Court. This is talking about Roe versus Wade. The call is coming from inside the House. If you go back to the Dobbs decision, people need to understand that the premise that life begins at conception is an overtly religious belief. It's a Christian fundamentalist belief. It's not shared by many people of the Jewish faith. It's not shared by many people of the Islamic faith or the Hindu faith or the Buddhist faith or any of these other faiths that make up our country. All right, for first off,
well, let me stop there. If you go back to the Jewish Bible, the law of God, if you caused a woman to lose her baby, you were punished for it. I mean, that was in the Pentateuch, that if you caused a woman to lose a child, it was looked at as murder under the Jewish law that God gave the Israeli people. So that's a lie. That's not true.
Everything this guy's saying is more or less a hearsay and opinionated. He's like, well, some people of this faith and some people of that faith. Does this guy that's on Joy Reid's show does not speak for every Black person in America, does not speak for every American, does not speak for every Christian, every Hindu, every Buddhist, every person who's Jewish or Islamic. He is not the spokesperson for all these people. However, the left wants to be. The left wants to tell all these other faiths what they should think, and you don't dare go against them.
Yeah, it's just like this. The left treats Black people as a monolithic group of people. Black, liberal, pro-abortion, welfare collectors. I mean, that's how they treat the whole Black community as a monolithic community. They all think alike. They all act alike. They goose step all together. And so it denies, it's the ultimate, they're denying Black people real humanhood because all Black people think the same. Well, I mean, you have liberal Blacks and then you have extremely conservative Blacks, but and then anymore now, you're a whitey, even if you're Black and you're a conservative. If you're a Black conservative, I mean, Clarence Thomas is one of they had all kinds of.
That's horrific what they've said about the Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas.
I
completely back him.
Probably one of the most brilliant legal minds we've ever had.
Yep. And
but
hey,
again,
I don't know how many times you have to look at videos of Joe Biden, Senator Joe Biden, using the N-word profusely in the 70s and 80s. We can't have these N-words in law. We can't have them in Congress or in schools because then they'll turn everything into zoos. And we already have an N-word problem. I'm sitting here looking at this, listening, and I'm like, why is this not played on TV? Why did Democrats vote for this guy?
Joe Biden actually said, that if you bring Black people in your school, you're going to turn it into a zoo. He said that. That's not, I mean, you can watch it on YouTube.
And he said he didn't want his kids he said he didn't want his kids in a racial jungle. I mean, that's the man who's your president right now.
Yeah. And Hunter Biden, who's his son, and, pedo Peter. But again, so this is what I'm saying. If you're going to keep getting your news from these people, you're going to be indoctrinated into their system and you're going to be traumatized by their system.
Yep.
We need to come out from this system and start to rethink everything you've learned. Go back to the Bible. Go back to what history has shown to be truths throughout all of humanity. There are certain truths that, what did they say, are self-evident, but they want to deny the self-evidence. I mean, it's self-evident that if I have a penis, I'm a guy. That is self-evident, and yet, no, you can be, there's 300 genders you can be. I mean, and people believe it because they've been traumatized into that system and indoctrinated into that system, and they believe that system. And a lot of those people are in the church today.
Well, in the church. Look, listen to this next headline. Hollywood pro-abortion activists demand end to Christianity and fascist Supreme Court. In this previous article that we were reading about with Joy Reid, the guest that we're speaking of says that the Roe versus Wade decision that was turned around will bring us back to the Salem witch trials.
Well, that's hyperbole, of course.
Yeah.
Of course, it's not going to do that. But that's what they do. They throw out that inflammatory rhetoric because the only tool they have ultimately is a tool of hate.
Yes.
I got to make you hate you.
Absolutely.
That's the bottom line. If I can make you hate you, I mean, if I can hate Black people, I can kill Black people. If I can hate Asian people, I can hate it. If Black people can hate white people, they'll kill them.
It's wartime propaganda.
Exactly. Remember, I mean, forgive this, but you can actually watch it on YouTube. There was a song during World War II. It was called "Slap the Dirty Jap." You can watch it on YouTube. It's there still. It shows you what propaganda does. And believe me, I've been to Japan. What a clean nation that is. I love meeting the Japanese people.
Very respectful people.
Exactly. But you can watch that. So we slapped the dirty Jap. Forgive me for saying that, but I just want to say it because you can see it on YouTube. And what it does is it demonizes a whole people group. So you know what? I can shoot them. And that's what they want. I mean, right now we're demonizing Russians. So we can shoot them. We demonized Arabs.
Yeah,
so we can shoot them.
Yeah, don't think we didn't demonize Arabs. I heard some of the most racial, horrible things said about Middle Eastern people. And hey, guess what was really funny when we got over there? They're like super nice.
Yeah. Memes. I saw memes.
They're super nice and respectful.
Everyone
people.
even talk about it.
Yeah.
So it's all done to demonize. You can kill them. So they're demonizing Christians right now because why? They want people to be able to kill us. I mean, I'm telling you, that's what it is. And so knowing that, with that in mind, I am going to plan, first of all, to protect my family, because when they send one, and you know, they don't want federal law enforcement doing it, so to speak. They want to have thugs do it because there's covered when thugs kill you. It's like, well, you know, whatever, they're bad people. You want to be able to defend your family, because though if they break into your house, they're not just going to shoot you. They're going to traumatize your children and wife. And we see this happening in the United States today. It's all done to traumatize the people, because I'm telling you, the Great Reset is coming. It's called the Great Tribulation in the Bible, and it's designed to make the whole world follow after their leader. Now, the Bible calls him Antichrist, but this Great Reset is, I'm not saying it is actually the end of it, but it's all gearing us towards this last one world government. You can't buy or sell without their approval. And so if you want to stay in that herd and be funneled into that corral, that's your choice. I just know Lot had to leave Sodom for a reason, because Sodom was going to be destroyed. People have to come out from the lifestyle sometimes that they're leading, because that lifestyle is going to be destroyed. That's why it says come out from among them. Lot was reluctantly left Sodom, and you might have to reluctantly leave certain things in your life, but you're going to have to do it in order to survive what's coming, because what's coming is catastrophic. It's going to be like birth pangs. Bang, relax, bang, relax, bang, relax, bang, relax, bang. And it's going to get faster just like that. And the thing is to step outside the system right now, not to do with illegal stuff, but that's why we get trained. That's why we learn how to use a radio, so we can communicate outside the system. That's why we grow food. And they hate, you know, I saw that gardeners are white supremacists. I've seen articles to that effect. If you're a gardener, you have white privilege. You know, I won't even go into that. Who raised the crops in America for hundreds of years? Who picked the cotton and the food? You know, the gardeners were the black people. Not by their own choice, but by force. So, I mean, we see everything that they're telling you is evil. That's what you need to be looking into and preparing, because, you know, the government's buying up food. The government's buying up water resources. We see all these supposedly recalls, and I just never see what happens to the food. Maybe it's recalled to some bunker somewhere. Everything that they accuse us of being, as far as preppers, they're doing it and using your tax money to do it. You have to use your money to do it for yourself. And so I just hope I make a case for it. Not that you have to buy from me, you can get it anywhere. But if you are not earnestly doing physical preparations right now, mental preparations, learning things, and physical preparations, you're standing in a herd that's going to be driven into a slaughterhouse. I can't say it any clearer than that.
Yeah, and I just want to close with this, that, you know, the reason why we bring up race so much is because it's a weapon that's used against us, and it's an effective weapon. They want to destabilize America. They want to destabilize the culture of Philadelphia. So no man loveth his brother. They want to divide the family. They want to destroy the nucleus of the family. They don't want people getting along with each other. They want you to have reasons to have bigotry towards one another. I'm not about that. You're not about that. Christ was not about that. Thus, no Christian is about racism or bigotry or hatred. And this is just my own personal opinion here. The politicians on the left and the right are using everything at their advantage right now to effectively confuse us, make us turn against one another, make us turn inward hatredly against ourselves, make us turn against our country. And we're going to be, as a whole, not as an individual, but as a nation, we're going to be ripe fruit for the picking for when we get invaded.
Yeah,
Not
the
if,
communists,
but when.
the communists already control our country. The communists are well entrenched in our country today. And that's why I'm just saying, I'm going to end with this, just a prayer. Jesus said it, come out from among them and be separate, says the Lord. Touch no unclean thing and I will receive you and you'll be my sons and daughters. It's more than just saving your life, because what you see here, this is a shell of Bob Griswold. The real Bob Griswold is inside. It's about saving your soul, saving the lives and souls of your family, protecting dignity of life, protecting womanhood, protecting manhood. All those things those are the right-wing extremist Christian values they're talking about. That's what I want to protect: womanhood. I want to protect the children. I want to protect manhood. I want to protect the sanctity of life. I want to protect honesty, just weights and measures. Those are things I want to protect. And yet I'm a bigot, hateful, and all this other, because I want to protect the yellow, the black, the red man. I want to protect them because they are owed equal justice under the law as I am. And those are the very values they're seeking to destroy. Mm-hmm. I mean, why don't we have Nancy Pelosi's husband drunk video? I mean, they're protecting it. I mean, there's the videos there, and it should be released.
Or Hunter Biden.
It's public, it's public domain. That's public domain. Those arrest records are public domain. I mean, but they're hiding it. They don't want to release it. I want to see, hey, you arrest me for drunk driving, you'll see me on YouTube walking a crooked line, Why don't we see that video? They're protecting it. So there's no equal justice. And when anything affects their paradigm, that's the racist, bigot, hateful. That's what they use. And so you can follow that paradigm if you want. You can hate me because I'm white. I won't hate you because you're black. I'm going to love you as Christ told me to love. That's what I'm going to do. And, so it's a choice of what paradigm you're going to follow right now. You're going to follow the paradigm of, men of God and women, men and women of God who have stepped outside the system and God used them mightily, or you're going to stay in Sodom and burn when the sulfur falls. It's your choice. But we really need the battle I fight is the battle here. And that's the battle you fight. It's in our mind. That's why the scripture says to gird up the loins of your mind with truth. We need to be continually inundating ourselves with truth, the truth in the word of God, and just build ourselves up with that. I strongly recommend physical preparation. You buy your food, your water, all that, but also train your mind for action. Train your mind. Be the person who's willing to stand out and say, excuse me, that's wrong. I'm not going to go down that road. I'm not going to agree with you. That's wrong. It might cost you, but in the end, you're going to save your soul. And when you stand before the King of the ages, the Lord Jesus Christ, you're going to earn the crown of life. That's what I want. I want that crown of life. And that's what I encourage people. So physically prepare, mentally prepare for hardship, and then spiritually prepare that the being inside of me, the soul and the spirit inside of me, going to live forever somewhere. Yeah. And I want to stand before the King of Glory.
Absolutely, live courageously for Jesus.
Absolutely.
That's the way we should be. All right, Bob, this was awesome, man. If anything happens lately, we'll be in contact because we know right now there's active things happening. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for listening. If you have any questions, please contact Robert Griswold. Right now is a great time to still get what you need preparation wise.
Let me give my phone number. You can call me 800-627-3809, 800-627-3809. If you have questions, even spiritual questions, I'm not a guru, but I do read my Bible and I'll pray with you. I'll do whatever, and counsel you. And I want to say this too. If you're a veteran or someone like that, that's really thinking of doing some bodily harm to yourself, take the time right now. I appeal to the veterans because I know what you've been through. and, seek out a brother or sister and pour your heart out to them. Your life is too valuable, too worthwhile to live. God wants to invest himself in your life and make your life count. And, don't do that. Call a brother, call a sister, call anybody, call me, call Doug, and just say, listen, I'm really struggling right now, guys. I really just don't want to live anymore. I reach out to you and say, your life is worth living, and God can invest himself in your life in such a way as he'll transform you and make you a powerful witness for his name's sake.
That's right. And I have veterans that reach out to me all the time, and my email's always open, gents and ladies. If you ever have that issue, you just need someone to vent to talk to. We're here. This is what this family of Christians is about. This family,
Yeah.
there's no one that's not allowed in it. Right. So just, understand that we are always here to support everybody. You support us, we support you. That's the way this works.
Absolutely.
Right, Bob. Well, thank you very much for coming on today, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Doug Thornton. You've been listening to American Vindicta. This is Bob Griswold, readymaderesources.com. Have a good one.